barbell back squat. Fantastic exercise. Now, when it comes to the setup of this exercise, the bar should be at about shoulder height in the rack. Some common mistakes, just from this point you'll see, is people put the bar too high to the point where they're going on their tippy toes to unrack the bar. If that is the case, then you need to lower the hooks immediately because that is very dangerous. The bar should always be set at a height where you can come underneath, perform a partial range squat, stand up, and then walk straight out. Again, I cannot stress this enough. You should not be coming onto your tippy toes to unrack the bar. Now, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to be showing you this exercise incorrect way, coming out of the rack so you can see what I'm doing. But at the end, I'll show you how to perform it correctly. The reason we always want to be facing the rack when performing the exercise is once we complete our set, we can then see where we're going to put the weight back. All right, but again, for demo purposes, I'm going to show you from the front and I'll also show you from the back after. So, first things first, determining our grip, using the markings on the bar to make sure our grip is even. What's important is not so much how wide or how narrow we go. It's more so to do that one, our grip is even, and more importantly, that our grip is, we've got a full grip on the bar. So if I was to go here, for example, I wouldn't be able to maintain a full grip because it's too narrow. So I'm going to go out here to the outer ring. I'm going to make sure my grip is even, feel for it on my pinky. I'm going to get a full grip on the bar. I'm going to line myself up into the center, pin my shoulder blades back, creating a shelf for the bar. It's not resting on my neck, it's resting on the meaty part of my upper back. Pin my shoulder blades back, stand up, stepping forward. Feet are hip width or just outside hip width apart, toes are slightly pointed out. This might be different for you depending on what your preference is, and that's completely fine. Don't be afraid to experiment and see what feels more comfortable. Now, the most important part of this movement is where I keep the pressure of my foot. At all times throughout this entire exercise, the pressure of my foot, I'm placing pressure throughout my entire foot. This will ensure that I'm completely balanced. At no point do I apply pressure on the heel or the toes. It is always, always, always the entire foot, or another easy way to think about it is just think about pushing through your midfoot. This will ensure that you're going to be in line with the center of mass. So, good posture, weights on my upper back muscles. I take a big breath in, into the belly, brace, squeeze my abs. Weight is on my midfoot, coming down, and standing up. One more. Now, some things, see how dangerous this is? Look at that. What if I was tired and I had to put that back? That's why I always face the rack. Now, some things to keep in mind. My breathing, which is really important. You would have noticed I take a breath in at the top. I hold my breath, which helps me clench and engage my core, specifically my abs, my obliques. Come down, and as I get past the halfway point, I can then start to breathe out. But I'm not just sort of breathing out like that. I'm breathing out and creating further pressure through my core. It's almost as if my abs are squeezing and pushing the air out. It's like that as opposed to like that. So again, you're breathing at the top, hold your breath, come down, get past the halfway point, breathe out. Some other things to keep in mind when performing this exercise. Again, make sure you're keeping the weight on your midfoot. Range of motion is key. So start with a light weight, build confidence, and work on that range of motion. That is so important. Again, keeping the weight on your midfoot. That way you're balanced with your center of mass. And lastly, your knees when performing this exercise. You want to make sure that your knees aren't really moving too much as you perform this exercise. A small degree of change is okay, but if it's excessive to the point where your knees are almost touching each other or your feet are peeling off the floor, correct it, reduce the weight, focus on controlling them. General rule of thumb is they should be in line with your toes. Other than that, the only other thing where people will commonly make mistakes is maintaining a neutral spinal posture. We don't want to extend and we don't want to collapse. We just want to maintain a neutral position, right? So that's really important throughout all ranges. I don't want to be like this, coming out of the squat. If my head is literally facing the floor and my chest is dropping, and you'll feel it because it'll feel uncomfortable. Reduce the weight, keep your chest up. And if it's so excessive to the point where you're falling back on your heels and you're like this, again, neutral position, and just maintain that neutral position. Balance, balance is key. All right, I'm gonna show you what it looks like correctly if you were to do this. So facing the rack, setting your grip, full grip on the bar, centering yourself, coming underneath, pin the shoulder blades back, stepping underneath the bar, partial squat to stand up, step back, feet hip width apart just outside, toes slightly out, whatever's comfortable. Take a breath in. One more. Finish my set, walk back into the rack, make contact, come down. Just on a side note, a common mistake you'll see is when people go to re-rack, they'll try and sort of preemptively guide the bar down into it. If you set it correctly to the point where the rack's lower, just lower or sort of shoulder height, you should be able to walk straight in, make contact, and then come down. That way you're going to be doing it the safest way possible. Don't worry about making noise or banging on the equipment. That's what it's there for. Don't stress. Again, just to go over a few points, range of motion is key, posture is key, keeping your gaze forward, keeping the weight on your midfoot, and balance. Really, a lot of it just comes back to balance. If you feel unbalanced, then chances are you're performing the exercise incorrectly.